This is In Studio. I'm Jay Daniels. Our special guest for this program is vocalist John Minnock. He recently released the album Right Around the Corner. It's an album that features a number of standards along with some original works. Together they help to tell the story of John's own life with all of its ups and downs. During my interview with John, we'll also talk about some very unique life experiences that helped lead him to where he is today. I began the conversation by asking John how he would define himself as a jazz vocalist.
I've been really emphasizing the jazz music probably for the last 5 years. Before that, I worked in a bar, so I did some, all sorts of grab bag stuff. Yeah. But now that I'm defining a particular show, I just moved into the jazz area. Jazz has so much opportunity to do and express different things. There's no limitations. You can I feel you can do whatever you want, and that's great, especially if you're trying to express a personal point of view or something like that. You can get away with it in jazz. I find pop music and R&B and funk a little more limiting. And one thing that is very important to me, and as I perform in small rooms, cabaret rooms, is to be as honest with the music and the show as you possibly can. Really be yourself. So, and that actually takes some effort and practice and experience for me to get to that level. There's an absolutely great top of the business singer named Marilyn May, and what she emphasizes in her classes, and I've seen her YouTube videos, is we're trying to get you to be you on the stage. Many facets of you, many sides of you, and jazz offers great opportunities to do that for me.
And has this kind of music played a role in your life? I mean, you and I were talking before the interview.
Yeah.
And a lot of your professional singing has been in your adult life.
Yep.
But has this music played a role in your life prior to that?
Yes. Particularly the very classic jazz vocalists. Big fan of Carmen McRae.
Yes.
Sarah Vaughan, Ella Fitzgerald, those vocalists. Joe Williams. And I'm even moving further, into the jazz arena. Some of their songs were a crossover between pop and jazz.
Yes.
And that's great, and they're spectacular. Just one side note, I saw Sarah Vaughan probably about 6 months before she passed away at Symphony Hall in Boston. Spectacular acoustics. The most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Her voice was stupendous. And she was not energetic anymore. She sat through the whole gig. I heard she did not used to do that.
Sure.
And but her voice was just heaven. It was absolutely beautiful. And she did songs like Misty, which is kind of a crossover pop jazz song. And she did a version of Send in the Clowns, which is a theater song.
Sondheim.
And it was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Just spectacular. And then her jazz stuff is, of course, extraordinary. Yeah. And same with Carmen McRae. And, of course, Ella Fitzgerald scatting, I can't even hope.
I don't even try to come close. People say, "Do you scat, Jay?" And I say, "No." I leave that to the expert.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, I do a moderate amount of scat singing in the show. And when people ask, how can you learn to scat sing? You just throw yourself into it. You just go for it. You'll screw up a couple of times. That's life. You just get better and more confident until it works for you.
Wouldn't you say that the hardest thing to do on stage is to let loose, so to speak, to just be yourself?
Yes. It took me a few years of experience to get to that level.
Yeah. That is one of the key themes in your latest release, Right Around the Corner, is being yourself, understanding some of these conflicts that life has presented to you and to others. Yeah. And it's a very, at first blush, you don't often realize what's behind these songs. Yeah. And with so many of the artists I've talked to, these songs from their albums, whether they're covers, whether they're originals, have had a very personal, meaningful connection. Give us the background, the story as far as what led to your choosing of the songs that are on this album. What is your own life's experience played in this?
Okay, so we're going to have to get all honest.
Imagine that. Let me have a sip of coffee while you get honest.
There's definitely, let's see, You Don't Know What Love Is. That sort of feeling of despair, and, a romance that isn't going to work, but it's also a feeling that it will never work, it's just desperate, it's never going to work for me kind of thing. When I was younger in the gay community, as a gay person, that was kind of a feeling, I think a lot of younger gay people have that is, wait, society isn't that accepting, so I'm kind of really screwed here. Yeah. So there's a lot of that in some of the blues songs. Do You Know What It Means to Miss New Orleans? I actually literally have a plot idea for every single line in my mind. And I think it has, just like I said before, a little more desperation in it than you might think, because I'm tapping into that, that feeling of, the whole world is never going to work for me kind of thing. I can never move forward. A sort of a discriminated against sort of feeling like I'm just alone here. So a lot of that bleeds into a lot of the songs I do.
Do you know what it means to miss New Orleans and miss it each night and each day?
And this is your second release that you've done.
Yeah.
Would you say that this one is more personal than that last?
I have a thought on that, and it's probably 100 times more personal. The first album was really just a representation of a cabaret, the stuff I was doing in the cabaret show at that time. This release, and I really found that I wanted to communicate something, in songs. And that's why I kind of wrote 3 songs, is there didn't seem to be a lot of jazz material for the LGBTQ community. Something specific about, there's a song on, the song Right Around the Corner is about bar hopping, which is a big deal in the gay community. But songs that are experiences from the gay community. Now, I find a lot of jazz songs really have a guy-girl aspect to them. Yeah. Especially, the romantic and ballad stuff. And the gay community has a different way of expressing that kind of thing. So I'm going in that direction. I'm not saying that's my permanent direction, but that's part of the thing about this album. Everything in this album is much more personal. Yeah. Much more, I felt this way at one time, and I'm tapping into that.
What it strikes me as, you mentioned in the earlier years, where you're having these conflicts. Okay, this is how I feel. Yeah. This is how people say I should feel.
Yeah. Right.
When were you able to reconcile the two and say, but this is who I am and I'm okay with that?
About 3 months ago. Just kidding.
Just in time for the album release.
That was, to be honest, a very long journey for me.
Yeah.
And the time frame, in the 80s was a different time than it is now. And that took a long time. Do you want to be a family member, or you keep it under wraps, or do you want to have a life and a partner and have your family have to deal with it? There's things like that. And I would go back and forth a little bit on this for a long time.
We've talked about that experience and figuring out who you were.
Yeah.
Answering your own questions.
Yeah.
And the music was there, obviously, from the very beginning.
Yeah.
So where is it that the two merged, that the music was able to help? I mean, you listen to certain songs, you hear the lyrics, or you hear the instrumentation, and you think, gee, that really speaks exactly to what I'm feeling. I mean, when was it that the music really started to take more of an active role in speaking what was on your mind?
I think I became aware of it, what you're saying. It was probably about 4 years ago. I was having drinks with a friend, and I just point blank said, I wonder why I sing jazz music. And he said, that's how you communicate. And that's when I really started to, hey, he's right. That's the avenue that I can communicate. And when these conflicts arise, have a song that helps to define it, maybe resolve it, maybe not. So that's when I really got the feeling of, I'm communicating this way. So let's look introspectively and see what it is I want to communicate and do that. I want to make a side note, is I do a number of gigs at Don't Tell Mama here on 46th Street.
Yes.
And one thing that is so cool about that is all of the storylines I have in my head are about experiences from the gay community. And at Don't Tell Mama, you can walk out on the street and see people going through the same thing. You know what I mean? It's all around you there. The plots I'm describing are happening all around you at Don't Tell Mama.
I love the East, love the West, North and South, they're the best. I only go there as a guest, I love it here with you. Love the sea, love the shore, love the surf, what is more? With you it just won't be a bore, I love it here with you. I'm in the shower every hour, it's a crazy game. I love it when we are together, love it when you say my name. I love good wine, fine cuisine, candlelight, I dig the scene. Don't you know just what I mean, just love it here with you. Set up a day, so it a day, set up a day, so it a day, so it a day.
Our guest on In Studio with Jay Daniels is vocalist John Minnock. Has just released the album Right Around the Corner. Think of music as a conversation, and especially within the community that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Would you say that the songs that you've sung have been able to help encourage that conversation, have allowed other people who may be going through some of the same struggles, so to speak?
Yeah.
Would you say that you're performing, whether live or in studio, do you think that it has an impact on those people?
I don't know, but I would hope it would.
Yeah.
They really are all positive, honest emotions. I have a friend who happens to be a psychiatrist, and she, in the one song we did on the album that we wrote, Are We All Alone, she said a lot of people, patients of hers, describe what you're putting in these lyrics. So these are common things. There's a line about, when I see people on the street, are they the same as me? She says, that's how a lot of people feel. They look around and see, is there something wrong with me? Or does anyone else in this crowd, are they hiding it right now, but they're in the same position?
And I think that relates to a lot of people in
That's right.
many different communities.
That's absolutely true.
That's the joy of music, you know. I think the performers, the active listeners, we all have our own reasons for why we gravitate toward certain songs.
Yeah.
And that one in particular that you mentioned, we have the advent of social media. We're constantly connected with other people, John.
Yeah.
And yet people feel so alone right now. I don't know if it's just because it seems as though it's more prevalent these days, but it seems to me that more people than before, especially of my generation and younger, feel that they're by themselves.
Yeah.
Either because of their lifestyle choice or maybe their interests. They feel as though there's no one in this world walking with them on the journey. Yeah. And I think it's songs like that that really help reinforce the point that where you are, somebody has been or is on that journey with you, you know, John?
Right. Well, thank you. That's great. And that it is good to hear. And that is kind of a testament to really, a lot of it is honesty. And you're right. You're not alone.
Well, is it hard for you to always be honest through your music and such?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm mostly goofy.
No kidding. So, let's move this into another direction. Okay. So, you've been singing professionally now for a little over 10 years from what you tell me. Is that right?
Yep.
Did you, because of your background, did you encounter any sort of pushback from within the music community, so to speak, because of who you were, who you professed to be?
Yes.
How did you handle that?
I just pushed forward.
Yeah.
By the time I was doing this, I was solid enough knowing that it's the right path. You know, it's the right thing. Be honest with who you are, and just keep going. That some people are not going to go for it. Too bad.
I think, though, John, even if people can say, well, I don't subscribe to this belief.
Yeah.
All right? You listen to the album, it's quality music. It's stuff that people can grab a hold of and take home with them and say, this is something good. From what I gather from listening, even though you specifically don't try to channel Johnny Mathis, there are sounds from these great artists that are within your music. Yeah. You're not trying to be anybody when you sing, are you?
No. In fact, if somebody says, here's a singer you should listen to, then I don't. Or I listen when I'm not working on anything. If I'm at the beach, I'll listen. But I don't like to listen to singers and copy them. Yeah. I like to make it all, and I guess that's part of the self-expression thing. Is I want it to be my way of communicating.
I know when I was first starting out singing, if I were doing a Nat King Cole song, guess who I would try to sound like? Or a Sinatra, especially Especially Dean Martin.
Yeah.
I really tried to sing like Dean.
Yeah, he's great.
And then I found very quickly, it's nice that you want to pay homage to those artists.
Right, a tribute show.
But I think you're doing a greater disservice to yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was listening to one of the recordings on the record before I came here, Do You Know What It Means to Miss New Orleans?
Yeah.
And it's songs like that. There are no pretenses. You're telling a story through the lens of music.
Right, absolutely true.
One thing to help segue to talking about the musicality, we know your voice. We've heard your voice on the album. But then you also have the players who are with you on the album. And I have to ask, have you played with these guys before? Because there's such a great chemistry on the album that you would think they must have played together at some point before.
Yes, we do all the shows together.
Yeah.
They're my standard band. They're great. Enrique Anene on piano, he's awesome. And Carlos Mena on bass and Pablo Lucian's on drums. And occasionally I have to sub. But they're absolutely great. They know what we do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They know by now. And even Enrique said, we're starting to get our own sound, or a sound that's ours. And we're stabilizing. Rehearsals go much faster. We're getting there.
Right.
We're gelling. So that came across in the album. A couple of the songs we did, like I Love Being Here With You and You Don't Know What Love Is. That was one take.
Really?
One take.
You breathed a sigh of relief when that happened, didn't you?
Exactly. Well, mostly I don't like being in the booth. I don't really like it very much.
Do you feel that it separates you from the ensemble?
Yes, and it's very lonely in there, and there's no audience. You have to imagine, the audience there, some sort of response. You have to sort of generate that energy on your own, for me anyway. And I don't really enjoy it. And it's very hard. You have to get your energy level up, and it's artificial. It's not like there's an audience there you're playing to. It's just a microphone.
I mean, you had a number of songs, I'm sure, that you wanted to put together on the album. How did you arrive at the 10 that finally became what were released?
A number of them I do in the show. I've done New Orleans, You Don't Know What Love Is, Moon River, the bossa nova feel to Moon River. We do that in the show. I had... we do a version of Get Happy, the iconic Judy Garland thing.
Yes. It's the first track.
Yeah. And that is actually the first song I ever sang for an audition for the senior play, whatever. And everyone, you usually just hear it the Judy Garland way. And so it's a great song, and she does a spectacular version of it. And as a friend of mine said, it's a good idea you didn't try to imitate Judy, because you can't.
That would have been a fun thing to talk about, though.
So, and we just came up with a new way of doing it. And I love doing that kind of stuff. We're rehearsing with Enrique, and he goes, so I want to do Get Happy because it means something to me. I'm a big Judy Garland fan and all that stuff. So he goes, well, what do you want to do with it? And I went, what do you want to do with it?
Yeah. And it's the way that I would describe the whole setting of that arrangement. It's mysterious.
That's right. Yeah.
The vocal line is mainly unchanged.
Yeah.
But it's the piano instrumentation around that.
Yeah, yeah.
I listened this morning and I said, where are they going? And then the vocal comes in. I said, well, the vocal is right where you would expect it. Yeah. And yet somehow these harmonic chords, dissonant, are interwoven around it. It's amazing to listen to.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's great to do. And it's a song where I make myself just an instrument. I'm not punching the lyrics and, doing a big show thing.
Yeah.
I'm just, I kind of feel I'm trying to just be an instrument with the band. And it's almost the opposite of the great Judy Garland version, where she is the performer. She's right out there.
That's right.
Forget your troubles, come on, get happy. You better chase your cares away. Sing hallelujah, come on, get happy. Get ready for Judgment Day. The sun is shining, come on, get happy. The Lord is waiting to take your hand. Sing hallelujah, come on, get happy. We're going to the promised land. We're heading.
It's interesting how these songs that have been written several decades ago, more than several in some cases, and yet here we are in 2019, still crafting fresh new arrangements. What I like from the album is that these arrangements, while some are a little bit out there, like the Get Happy, you don't expect it.
Yeah.
But when you listen, you're like, somehow it fits, you know? And I tend to think from listening that you have a deep respect for these songs and how you treat them.
Yes.
It's very deliberate
Yeah.
in the ornamentations that you provide.
Yes.
It's just enough, but not so much that it distracts from the song itself. Do I read that right?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And by the way, about Get Happy, the lyrics are pretty much related to some Christian religion. I'm not sure. It was written in like 1928.
Yeah.
And all of those are imagery from, I can't remember which religion it is, but it's a very religious song. And so I kind of kept that reverence. You know, in my mind, it's sort of a passing over to the afterlife kind of thing, that sort of flowing, you know, more of a tenor voice than a baritone. You know, it's just a very friendly, comforting, that was my mental image anyway. But it kept the religious part.
It did come, I hadn't thought, but it does come across as very respectful.
Yeah.
As do all of your arrangements on the album, of the standards especially. So the album has been out now since, let me see, was it November?
November.
How has the album been received at your shows, and also, you know, through sales don't gauge everything, but what I'm asking is, what have you heard on the album?
Now, some of the tunes, like New York, New York, that sort of John Coltrane arrangement, with, who's the sax player? Ah, yes, Dave Lehman.
Lehman. Where do I know that guy?
Yeah. And some of that is different than what I used to do in the show. It's a lot of that is a departure. It's further into the jazz worlds, further down the jazz spectrum. So, but it's been really well received. People tell me they love that. Of course, the song New York, New York has a little bit of sarcasm, a little bit of snarkiness, so it's a good fit.
I can't see that in your personality, John. I'm sorry. Yeah.
It's all
you
a facade.
promised before the interview that you were going to leave the snark out. Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah. I guess the takeaway is this whole album is not only an expression of you, the things you believe,
yes,
but also it's what's the wording I'm looking for? It is a recorded piece of your own life's history.
Right.
It shows your own growth in the journey of music and self-awareness and self-worth.
Yes. All true. I guess I hadn't thought of all of that. But yes, it is. It really
That's
is.
what those of us in radio, we have too much time on our hands. We think about these things.
To canoodle on things.
How should I sound like Walter Cronkite? So, you know, what are you looking at for the next few weeks, months ahead? I mean, you've got a show coming up at 54 Below here in Manhattan.
Yeah.
That's going to be on Saturday, March the 16th. You know, after that, what are your plans? What is it what are the goals that you want to achieve personally and professionally, say in the next year?
Right now, I'm interested in doing more shows around Manhattan.
Aren't we all?
A couple of clubs around Manhattan.
Yeah.
Probably back at Don't Tell Mama a couple times. I don't know if you've been in there. It's a smaller cabaret space. And there's a number of clubs around. I'm not making any announcements yet, but some more clubs around New York, some of the bigger clubs, as well as Don't Tell Mama. And think about what's going to go further in the musical direction at the same time. I'm already considering now, where do you want to go? What do you want to do next? And I'm just thinking about it now, so I haven't come up with, I haven't definitively gone in a direction, but.
Vocalist John Minnock and his new album, Right Around the Corner. It's available wherever fine music is sold. He'll be at Feinstein's 54 Below in Manhattan, Saturday, March the 16th. Tickets are available at 54below.com. Special thanks to our friend and colleague Lydia Liebman for helping make this interview possible. Until next time, I'm Jay Daniels. Thanks for joining us in studio.